There's certain parts of the business that you really have to have the training and the certification behind it. Engineering is certainly one of those. Finance is certainly one of those. And there's a lot of failure modes in ERP, and some of those failure modes can be catastrophic for a business. So it's very high importance, high risk type of thing. And you do need the expertise, especially on the architecture and how these software tools are built.
Growing a business requires a holistic approach that extends beyond sales and marketing. This approach needs alignment among people, processes, and technologies. So if you're a business owner, operations, or finance leader looking to learn growth strategies from your peers and competitors, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to the WBS Podcast, where scalable growth using business systems is our number one priority. Now, here is your host, Sam Gupta.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the WBS Podcast. I'm Sam Gupta, your host and principal consultant at digital transformation consulting firm Elevate IQ. Among most software, ERP systems have always traditionally been the most hated. Each new ERP system that comes to the market seems to claim how they can either expedite the implementation time, increase the adoption, or change the ERP industry. Also, most new systems target smaller niches such as job shops, but the deeper your ERP system is in a specific niche, the less friendly and agile it will be as your business model expands. Specifically, the smaller job shops have a hard job meeting regulatory requirements imposed on them if they sell to verticals such as aerospace or medical. In general, they need IT capabilities more than ever before. But most shop owners or their executive teams don't have formal IT, finance, or procurement leadership to understand how to take advantage of an ERP system. Also, there is a fundamental misunderstanding in the machining community that you only have opportunities on the shop floor. While the shop floor plays a major role with most shops, you need to balance all your departments equally, whether finance, procurement, or operations with growth. One of the newer systems that seem to be making a significant buzz, especially in the machining community, is ProShop ERP, which has been positioned as game-changing. But is the system genuinely game-changing, or is it just marketing hype? In today's episode, we invited a panel of industry experts for a live discussion on LinkedIn to discuss major stories in the ERP and digital transformation space and an objective and independent review of ProShop's capabilities. We covered several grounds, including their marketing claims, especially about their transparency to their customers and underlying technical deficiencies that may not be entirely clear to the customers. Finally, we discussed how these technical limitations might end up costing way more in data restructuring and process realignment with the mainstream ERP systems once ProShop customers outgrow QuickBooks or Sage 50, and how this uniqueness will be a huge red flag for investors considering to include ProShop customers in their portfolio. With that, let's get to the conversation. Hey guys, welcome to today's show. For today, we have a vendor called ProShop. So first, we are going to start with everybody's intro, and after that, we are going to jump right into the topic. So Phil, can I ask you to introduce yourself, if you don't mind?
Sure, Sam. Hi, everybody. I'm Phil Kerper, Managing Director of Ringling Business Solutions. We help companies align their strategies, their core business strategy, with their digital transformation strategies for success. And I'm coming to you after 25 years in the CEO position at several different mid-market manufacturing companies. So I bring a lot of ERP background on both sides of selection and implementation. So really happy to be here.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Phil. Dave, can I move to you next for your intro, if you don't mind?
Yeah, happy to, Sam. Hey, everybody. My name is Dave Chrysler, and I own a company called the Chrysler Club, where we work with business owners to help them create the systems they need to stop working in their business so it can grow. I come to you today with more than 20 years in manufacturing operations, directly responsible for several different ERP implementations. Thanks for having me, Sam.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much, Dave. Angela, can I move to you next for your intro, if you don't mind?
Sure. Thanks, Sam. Hello, everyone. I am Angela Thurman, the owner of Thurman Co., a consulting company in Houston, Texas. I am an experienced program manager, also offering contract management and supplier assessment with an emphasis in aerospace and supplier assessment.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Angela. Andy, can I move to you next for your intro?
Absolutely. My name is Andy Pratico. I've been involved with ERP software for manufacturers for over 4 decades. I've worked all over North America. I've published a book on how to evaluate ERP software, and I'm located in Vancouver, Canada.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Andy, for being here. It's always fun to have you. So the very first story that we have is coming from NetSuite, and they have announced, and guys, if you are not familiar, NetSuite actually just at their annual conference, and typically as part of the annual conference, most ERP vendors, they are going to be announcing a key feature. So in their case, they have announced a feature called Suite Banking. Now, don't get confused with the Suite Banking word, because some people might feel that, you know what, this is probably their banking solution. That's not true. Okay. So what they are trying to do is they are trying to replicate the same experience that businesses had in case of QuickBooks. So what QuickBooks does is, it actually provided all of the automated connections with your banks. Typically, most ERP systems don't have that. They have to download your bank statements and then do the reconciliation process. It's not going to be as seamless as your QuickBooks, but now NetSuite is actually moving to do that. So you are going to get the entire banking functionality integrated as part of your ERP suite. In the other ERP ecosystems, you had add-ons that could do similar things. So you have to pay extra for that, but it was never sort of included as part of the package. When you have as part of the package, you have control over code because it's actually managed by the same vendor. You don't have to deal with 2 different vendors for support, for any sort of problems. You don't have to pay extra because typically vendors are going to charge far more when, it is not going to be included as part of the same license. So here, obviously, we have a little bit of commentary from NetSuite that it is actually going to make the whole process seamless, which is great. I mean, the HSBC is actually included as part of the portfolio. I don't know how many banks are included, but for the most part, it seems fairly comprehensive. The next story is coming from Unamet. I had vaguely known them because the architecture and engineering space, the AE space, or the government contracting space is fairly unique. We have many different vendors there in that specific space that are going to provide feature sets such as your DACA compliance. It's a very unique space in itself. So you have specific ERP systems that really cover that space. Again, it's going to be Deltek, Unanet. So here, what Unanet is doing is they have released a new suite of product upgrades for its ERP and CRM platforms. This is really the UX improvement overall on the product, and I don't think they have done anything else here. So maybe it's similar to what Epicor had done with their Kinetic. I don't know how deep this is. I have not really looked at deeply, to be honest, but they have done some sort of UX improvement on their CRM and ERP platform. Now, the third story is coming from Priority. And if you guys are not familiar with Priority software, okay, they have massive presence in the manufacturing space, which might come across as a shock for a lot of people because 2-3 years back, even I had not heard of them. Okay. So Priority actually comes from a beautiful country called Israel. They have roughly 30,000 installations there. Very, very, very new to North American market. But, overall, from the capabilities perspective, the product is very strong. It's run by very sophisticated management. And typically, when I look at any sort of newer players in the ERP market, the way they progress, and we are going to talk about this issue, how newer ERP systems are created, whether you talk about DCOM, whether you talk about Acumatica, these are relatively newer ERP software. Whether you talk about, systems like Unit 4, we are going to be covering all of that. But Priority has a very sophisticated management. They have executives from companies such as SAP and Infor. They have worked with these companies, and they typically, try to get them so that they at least have the supervision overall in terms of how to run an ERP business. Now, so in case of priority, they have released a new version, and here they are saying large enterprises can run multiple operational processes and financials in a multi-company mode from the same platform. So before this, as you can probably understand from the verbiage, that this was not really in a multi-company platform before. It was a very deep manufacturing platform, but probably they didn't have the multi-company, or they probably had to log out in different. I don't really understand, whether they had this or not. Andy, maybe if you have any sort of background, feel free to unmute yourself. But seems like now they can do it from the same platform.
Actually, I don't really have a lot of insight with Priority. I know they've been marketing a lot in North America over the last year or so, but it's all pretty new to me.
Yeah, so I guess they have a lot of people. I don't remember if they are from SAP or Infor. They have executives, that have worked at these large companies. They have been trying to build their channel. I don't know how successful they were. So they were actually trying to follow similar strategy as Acumatica, because obviously Acumatica is very successful in the way they have penetrated the market in last 3-4 years. So they were trying to follow the same strategy, but I don't know how successful they are. But they are still rated with Gartner or IDC, I don't recall. One of the analyst firm rated them. So they have some accreditation from these analyst agency. They are not so alien in the market. All right. So now the fourth story that we have is coming from Sage. And in case of Sage, I don't know whether you guys know this. Obviously, Sage has very large market share in the construction space. The construction has always been sort of the bread and butter for them. Obviously, the accounting firms is the first one as their customer and their customer's customer. That's Sage's go-to-market strategy. We have reviewed them in their acquisition strategy. We have reviewed them with their session that we have done with them. And obviously, construction is a big deal. They had a division that was completely dedicated for real estate and construction market. They had a product called Sage 300, which was slightly more on-prem version. And now, they are trying to build those capabilities as part of their Sage Intact platform. Last time I checked, I think they had fairly deep capabilities overall for the construction and real estate market, but they did not have as many installations of the Sage Intact platform just yet in the real estate and construction market. Obviously, Sage Intact is a very successful platform, but in the construction and real estate market, they were fairly newer. They were not as deep as their Sage 300 platform. So typically, the way they would approach this is, let's say, if a customer who's willing for slightly more cloud native experience, then they would direct them towards Sage Intact. But let's say if you are very deep, or if you require very deep functionality, then they are going to ask you to go to Sage 300 platform until your Sage Intact catches up. And one of the things that most construction companies need, and this could be construction manufacturing centric companies as well, because construction is a very different beast in terms of the business. It requires collaboration with your architects. It requires some metals. It's a nightmare to be in the construction space. There's a whole operational process that your vanilla ERP cannot fulfill. So typically for that, there was a startup called Procore. They are one of the Cloud 100, I guess. They are phenomenal into the operational aspect of the construction. They're really, really good. Okay, they use, let's say, I think Sage is one of their go-to platform. They are also integrated with Acumatica, but I don't believe the code base of that integration is owned by Acumatica. In case of Sage, I think they have native integration, very seamless integration with the Procore platform. So right now, I think what they have developed is the Procore connector for Sage Intact, and they are moving really aggressively in that market, because Sage Intact is going to be sort of the go-to cloud native platform for construction. I don't know if any other platforms out there have the similar capabilities. Acumatica maybe right after that. NetSuite obviously does not target construction unless they are overselling.
Well, the Procore, that's pretty interesting because they've got an extremely positive reputation in the construction industry, and of course the Sage product has some of the project management capabilities, so it's kind of like a nice match.
Yeah, and they have deep capabilities as well. It also, your functional expertise needs to be there, especially in case of construction. Construction is a very different beast. We have done a lot of work in the construction space. it's very complicated the way. In fact, I mean, see, if you actually go to the CPA community, the construction accounting is completely separate. The accountants who can do manufacturing accounting, they'll never go for construction accounting because it's just different. It's very, very different. The way you have the job codes, the way you have your union laws, the way you have your labor
Oh,
laws,
yes.
it's a different beast.
But it's like the DNA being the Timberline product. I mean, it was always, that was its gig forever, and pretty much was the only one on the market forever for the longest time. But this sounds very interesting.
Exactly. So, guys, I want to give a little background in terms of what ProShop is. If you are not familiar with it, it's a relatively newer platform, just like you might have heard Acumatica or Priority or GCOM. These all are very new platform. ProShop targets job shops slightly on a smaller range, and they are loved by the machining community, especially because it's a very unique platform. It has a lot of different feature set. It's really tailored for the machinist. So obviously, machinists are going to absolutely love the platform. A little bit about journey about ProShop. So the way ProShop started, and I'll give you background about every other ERP companies, how they start, even if it is going to be startup. For example, the way Acumatica started, Acumatica, if my understanding is right, and Andy, you can correct me because you have been around the block for much longer time than I have been. So my understanding is that Acumatica started somewhere in Russia, and then once they started really doing well, the product was really good. There was no question about it. And then they brought a guy from Microsoft who had seen ERP and who has sort of run the ERP company. So that's how Acumatica could grow so much, and that's why Acumatica is so good, because at least the guys who were running the ERP company, they knew how ERP industry works. Majority of the platform, if you are going to look for some of the niche solution, smaller ones that actually target any of the market, any of the very specific market verticals in the market, they are either going to be started by one of the CPAs. And the reason why the CPA designation is really important is because ERP implies that it is actually going to be an accounting application. People go to school to study how accounting works. People go to study, and one of the things that they are going to learn, they are going to have either some sort of accounting focus. And Phil, I think you have the accounting background, right? So you can probably tell us a little bit more. And there's going to be a little bit of supply chain as well. And people study these things in school. And the majority of the ERP systems that are created, they are created after the study that has been done in these universities, in these schools. I don't know any sort of interns or guys from the college created an ERP system, because ERP system is not an app. There is a massive difference between an application versus an ERP system. It's supposed to be a very different system compared to any of the apps that you might find that are going to be there in the market. So in case of ProShop, as far as I am aware, and you guys can correct me based on your research, I could not find any executive that belonged to any major ERP company, even if they worked with any of these major ERP companies in past life. I could not find any of those. Even their employees, none of them actually come from the traditional ERP company. And one of the reasons that could have been because the way ProShop likes to position themselves in the market is they are fairly unique from the platform perspective. And we are going to review all of those capabilities. Obviously, they are very, very unique. It's going to be a very different platform. Now, unique could mean two different things. Okay, if you are complying, let's say, with the industry, then you are not going to have as much problem. But if you are completely unique, then you have to create the whole ecosystem on your own. So your platform, your product needs to be that good. For example, let's say if you talk about companies like SAP, SAP actually created their own community, their own ecosystem. SAP was taught in the universities and schools. Obviously, you need to have that much money to be able to create that kind of movement. And I don't know if ProShop is really going to have all of that. The other companies, for example, Acumatica, the only reason why Acumatica could grow to this extent is because of their channel, to be honest. Okay, they really earned the trust of their channel. They really opened up. They innovated something that was very unique with Acumatica, and that's why Acumatica formula works. Even though Acumatica is a very small company, even though they are invested by a private equity investor at this point of time. So that's the journey. But in most ERP systems, 99% of them will have some sort of leadership that actually comes from either the ERP industry, or they are going to have either the advisors or the investors. They will have prior experience with the ERP industry. That I could not find in case of ProShop.
Yeah, Sam, just to comment on that, I think there's certain parts of the business that you really have to have the training and the certification behind it. Engineering is certainly one of those. Finance is certainly one of those. And ERP is, there's a lot of failure modes in ERP, and some of those failure modes can be catastrophic for a business. So it's very high importance, high risk type of thing. And you do need the expertise, especially on the architecture and how these software tools are built. And this particular company may have that, maybe just not in leadership, I don't know. But where they came from was the people on the shop floor are really taking their processes and putting it into software, versus software architects and software professionals really developing a robust software package, is what I see in this particular vendor.
Exactly. I completely agree with you, Phil. Okay, so we are going to start reviewing their platform in terms of their claims. And so the very first screen, when you are going to go there, you are going to find their claim of being an ERP system. Even though they like to say that they are not really an ERP system, they are an add-on, but it's very, very clearly highlighted on their site that they are claiming themselves as the ERP system, which in my opinion is misleading. It could be very confusing when ERP systems traditionally have been used as the accounting applications. You have to have the accounting foundation as part of your ERP system. If you're using third-party system, you are an add-on. I don't know, companies like Fishbowl, I don't think they claim themselves as an ERP. We did not see that. In fact, they are going to be QuickBooks approved. Because when you are trying to position yourselves as you are co-branding yourself with an application, then you need to really take their permission. So right now, obviously, you are integrating with, in case of ProShop is integrating with Sage 50. And by the way, Sage 50 is their baby ERP system. That's the QuickBooks version of Sage. And that is not even your Sage 200 platform, which is probably going to be their go-to in the future. I think we saw during our Sage that they are moving forward with only 2 or 3 different platforms. That is going to be your Sage X3, it's going to be your Sage Intacct, then it's going to be Sage 200 Cloud. They have Sage 50 was not mentioned anywhere when we reviewed Sage. So the only integration ProShop right now has is going to be with Sage 50. That's a baby version of the ERP system. It's not really designed to run the transactional business, the larger business that are going to be very transaction sensitive, is how I like to define when it comes to the integrity of the transactions. So a couple of more claims, even though they are calling themselves as ERP, some more things here. They are saying that, I am make to order, I'm make to stock, engineer to order, mixed mode, prototype through production, job shop, OEM, contract manufacturer, machine shop software, fabrication shop, additive manufacturing, complex assembly. You bet, I can do it.
They missed assemble to order, Sam.
I think they implied that, assembly, I saw it somewhere, right?
Was it in there?
Complex assemblies.
Oh, complex assemblies. Oh, okay.
Right. So it's supposed to be, yeah. So exactly. So now my ProShop friends are claiming that they can do it all, guys. And now we are going to be reviewing these screens if they really have these capabilities. In my experience, I did not really find it. Phil, you are going to find it shocking, because the observation that you have in case of your global shop, session that you could not find. Okay, where is my FIFO? Okay, give me that, because I am an accountant. I'm looking for that. You're not going to find all of that because you require that in case of inventory.
Well, Sam, okay. On the screen that we're looking at right here, where you have the industries and the 4 industries, it's really interesting that there are 4 industries. They've got, obviously, medical is on there, but aerospace, space, and defense is kind of all one category.
I agree with Andy.
It's kind of odd.
And by the way, one more observation, guys. If you actually look at the journey of most ERP systems, even Acumatica, a system as powerful as Acumatica, okay? Acumatica started doing retail, distribution. Then they moved to slightly more, light manufacturing, then slightly more complex manufacturing. If you go to Acumatica right now, they are going to be kind and they are going to say, you know what? If you are very regulated, I do not touch it right now. We are not there.
Right.
Okay? Here, these guys are targeting the most regulated industry.
Regulated
most
completely.
Complex works.
Yep.
I've never done any ERP in my past life, but right now, I'm actually going to go to Aerospace and I am actually going to show them how to do ERP. Can you believe this, guys? Okay, so that's the journey of the company.
But Sam, when I tried to, with my interests, I automatically clicked on Aerospace, and the screen that came up, the bullets, it gives me examples like what their modules are, but there are no links. I couldn't see visual work instructions. I couldn't see cert management, and I found that very disappointing.
So we are definitely going to review all of that, obviously, in terms of how they are approaching this very differently, obviously. So we are going to review all of that. So here, they are being kind here. If you actually look at the results, they have clearly identified that they are doing two things. Number one, they are replacing JobShop, and number two, E2 ERP. But that's somewhere hidden. It's not highlighted that, I am competing in E2 market, I am competing in JobShop market. If you look at their front page, it's promoted as if they are competing with Inforce and Epicors of the world, which I find it's slightly unfair because their target market should be below $8 million, $10 million. That should be the market, JobShop price should target. I mean, JobShop, I don't think JobShop ever claims that, I'm actually going to go and I'm going to sell to, let's say, $50, $100 million company. And, those companies can really struggle, to be honest, because the database and the technologies that you have underneath, they are probably not going to support the transaction volume of these companies. So it could be tricky. So here they have clearly identified that, I am actually trying to replace. So this is their target market. They should be compared with, let's say, E2s and JobBoss of the world. So that's on this screen. If you guys have any comment, just unmute yourself.
I think that just reinforces your earlier comment that if they were positioning themselves as a replacement for some of those on the floor JobShops, JobBoss type packages as an add-on, that would be appropriate.
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't know why these guys are not positioning themselves as the competitor of Fishbowl. In my mind, if I look at this platform, this is really the competition for Fishbowl.
Okay? Yeah, absolutely. And they would be really a good alternative. They've got some nice things. And the other thing too is their industries don't highlight the CNC background, which is where they grew up and came from, which is also fascinating to me, that they're really not focused on marketing around what they're probably great at, which is helping a CNC shop get their process flow together.
Yeah, exactly. So now let's talk about the screens. And when you look at any of the ERP system, and I think, this one we discussed during our last session as well. And in my mind, the comparable here is going to be Global Shop. And Global Shop actually does have their own accounting. The way Global Shop product is created, it's very ERP, to be honest. I mean, we have reviewed it. Even if you're going to compare it with Epicor, obviously they are not going to have as superior technology, they are not going to have, as superior functionality, but it looks and feels as if it's an ERP. Okay, ProShop does not feel as if it's an ERP. And by the way, ProShop does claim that they are calling themselves as the digital manufacturing ecosystem. Okay, now pay attention to this term, guys. Now, when you think of the ecosystem, you are going to feel and think that, this is way bigger than ERP, guys. So ProShop is probably bigger than SAP because I can do ERP, I can do my MES, I can do my QMS. Now that is misrepresentation in my mind because you should be comparing yourself with Fishbowl. Global Shop is probably going to be a bigger platform for you because you don't have accounting built as part of the platform. If you're trying to commercialize yourself as ERP, first figure out how to do accounting. If you're not able to do accounting, don't call yourself ERP. Call yourself ERP add-on.
One moment, though, just to be fair, the thing about Fishbowl is that it's an MRP system. It's material planning.
Yeah.
This one does have routing, so it means it's another level of above Fishbowl, right?
I agree. I mean, it's going to have a lot of bells and whistles. But traditionally, if you actually think about, I mean, traditionally technologies were limited. If you go back to 1990s, you had the accounting system and the MRP system. They were separate, and manufacturing systems were used to be called the MRP system. In fact, Epicor started similar way. Epicor was never an accounting system. It was the manufacturing system. Okay, it used to sit on top of your sage because Epicor never had that. That's how Epicor started. But Epicor learned its lesson in terms of how it has to present. Epicor has been in the market for what now? 50 years, Andy?
50 would be about right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously now they don't overstate, they don't overclaim. Yes, in some instances they have done it, but not to this extent that they are going to call themselves game changing, because whatever game they are changing as of today, that was Epicor was changing in 1980s.
Well, the one thing that really interests me on this screen is where it says it's ITAR controlled. Yes. Is that saying this customer is ITAR controlled, or that the software has that capability?
So I think that means that this part
Yeah,
is
it's on the
ITAR
SKU level.
controlled.
Yeah,
Oh,
Angela's right. It's on the SKU level.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
So,
okay.
Guys, so let's pay attention to the part screen, and now let's try to compare this how the ERP functionality is going to work. And my concern with this platform is this is so off that, let's say if you are trying to move to the next platform, because obviously you will not be able to live on ProShop forever because you are reliant on your QuickBooks. Even QuickBooks is going to say, you know what, once you move past $10 million, then you should not be working with us. It's just too much. We cannot handle this. We are not designed for this. We cannot support you. Just go and find something else. So when you move past that, then there is a stage when you are buying the ERP for the first time. And by the way, ProShop buyers are the first time ERP buyers. They don't understand how ERPs work. Typically, in any startup journey, there's going to be a coaching process. And the coaching process is going to be, every startup is going to be very ad hoc in terms of the process. That's how every single business starts. They are going to be all over the place with respect to their products, their processes. But once you reach that $10-15 million point, then you have to hire somebody who has run a $10-15-50 million business, and they come to you and they teach you how to run that business. So you standardize your product offering, and Phil, I'm pretty sure you can relate with this because your clients are really hiring you to do that job. Dave, you guys are doing that work, right? So that's going to be your standardizing process that every company has to go through, and they have to streamline their information architecture with how industry works, how accounting works, how business works. Now, these guys have taken a different approach. These guys said, you know what? I don't care how businesses work. I'm actually going to define the way I work, and I'm going to change everybody. Now, that's a tall order, guys. that's a tall order. Okay. So here, now pay attention to your part screen. Now, if you actually think of any of the machine shops, even the way your customer hierarchy is going to be, you are going to be working with many different customers. You are going to have the parent-child hierarchy in case of your customer objects. Okay. You are going to have the parent-child hierarchy in case of part object. Now, if you actually try to compare this with Global Shop, I think, Global Shop had a very flattened architecture overall in their screens. And now, if you guys remember, the reason why they had done it is because of the limitation of their technology, which was two-phase commit protocol, that they could not support distributed transactions. Now, if you actually make your data very hierarchical, then what is going to happen is, if you are using very less memory footprint database, your database cannot really support these distributed transactions. So you have to lump everything together on one screen. That's what we have seen in case of GlobalShop, and that's what we are seeing in case of ProShop. So the whole hierarchy is missing. That hierarchy actually helps you with the efficiency in your business. Because in case of GlobalShop, we had seen that, you were actually entering the cost, but if you have to make update on that particular field, then you have to go to 50 places and update that. And this is the same problem that we are going to have in case of ProShop as well. Now, in case of ProShop, you are going to have far more problems, because when you have to accommodate all of those business hierarchies, when you are working with these challenging customers where you are going to have, you are billing with somebody, you are shipping with somebody else, you have your multiple ship tos as part of the corporate hierarchy, then you have the associations. Now here, if you actually look at, you have the client, you have the main contact, you have the tech contact, you have a bunch of other contacts, and there is no sort of organization of the information architecture. That's my biggest problem. If you look at even the smallest possible ERP system, they are going to have a bunch of tabs. those steps are designed in a way, the way your information architecture is supposed to work. Now, you could actually coach your customers that, you know what, I have done this because I was trying to flatten the architecture and I was trying to make it easy for you guys. So everything is on one page. And we discussed this last time as well. Okay, we have come a long way to understand this in programming, that you have to have your object oriented programming language that we have been doing for past 60, 80 years. Okay, if you flatten it out, that's going to make it far more difficult than making it slightly more relational. So these guys are going backwards. They are trying to flatten, but the most important reason why they are trying to flatten is most likely because of the underlying technology and underlying database, but they are trying to sell it as this is the easiest platform because I have put everything on one page. This is not going to be scalable because now if you have to add another object, then it's going to be all over the place. The way the architecture is right now of the screen, as you can see, guys, it's very chaotic. It's very hard to follow. It's just all over the place.
Another point to notice, Sam, is notice where there's a hot link in blue and where there's not a hot link, which is also comes back to your relational database comments. So the main contact and the tech contact do not look to be linked, whereas the client is. And that implies to me that if I clicked on Premier Aerospace, for example, I would get to a client page. But yet the contacts are hard. And there's a lot of that on these. That's strange to me. I would typically on a SKU level expect there to be a lot of hot link back to where those parts of the relational database reside.
Exactly. That would be my expectation as well, because that's how the business information hierarchy works. And the more hierarchy you have, the easier it gets in scaling the structure. So now, let's say if I'm the business owner and I need to switch from my ProShop to a next ERP, I'm screwed. I'm really screwed. So if you are buying it for the first time, it might appear very easy. But where are you going to go next? You have to go to a real ERP system. If you go to a real ERP system, then you have to hire a consultant, and those consultants charge you millions of dollars just to flatten this data. If you can take out the data, and in my experience, I have not even seen any of the Excel capabilities overall in the application, whether you can really take out the data the way your other applications are going to expect. Now, first-time ERP buyers are not going to know all of this. Most shop owners, they don't really have the IT leadership. They don't have procurement leadership. They don't have finance leadership. They don't understand how these things work. They are only trying to survive. They are thinking that right now, if I'm saved, I can somehow run my business, then I'll figure everything out tomorrow. But tomorrow is going to be far deeper. It's going to be far more problematic because, converting this data is going to be extremely, extremely challenging, in my opinion. The buyer who is going to be buying company that have ProShop installed, it's going to be extremely difficult because now you are looking at millions of dollars just to convert this data structure in the ERP format. And that could be a very difficult process to teach these guys that you need to learn ERP, guys. You really need to learn ERP because that's how the whole world works.
Well, on Deloitte's website, they have a chart that it's their opinion, of course, but probably they measured it, but it's a chart that compares the reason why companies buy first-time ERP purchases versus the reasons why second-time ERP purchases buy. And the first-time companies, number one is price.
Yep.
That's number one, because they assume they're all the same. And, this product is a good price. And so for that matter, it's targeted at the right audience. But it's like you say, Sam, I'm just not sure they're going to get what they think they're going to get.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, guys, pay attention to the other things on the item screen, the way you would find your Aerospace ERP or the JobShop ERP. So you are going to be expecting a lot of different things, but I'm not seeing. In an ERP application, I would be expecting, my FIFO, my cost codes, my GL codes. Now, even if you are saying that, I'm using QuickBooks, but I still need that information here. Otherwise, how am I going to automate those entries? The journal entries, how am I going to run my business? I just don't know. I really don't know.
So, Sam, one of the things that I notice is that operation number 30, the part rev has a red flag.
Yeah.
So that means that part number has a recent revision.
Okay.
And I'm just curious, if this were my system, I would be curious about how that's going to affect the production and the QMS especially. So does this mean that in this production, do I need to do an FAI? How is that going to affect delivery? I mean, I would just have a whole bunch of questions when I see this red flag.
Yeah, I sort of agree. I don't know if anybody is going to have any other points on that comment. But again, I mean, see, I think these things can be addressed overall in coaching, but my concerns are going to be in terms of the structure of the data, because the structure of the data drives a lot of different things from the scalability perspective. When you are going to move to the next ERP, how you are going to drive your business process, how you are learning at this point of time, because you have to unlearn all of these habits when you are actually going to move to the next ERP platform. For example, let's say if you are on Fishbowl. Fishbowl is a very ERP-centric platform. Global Shop is the very ERP-centric platform. So if you're going to be migrating, let's say, from Global Shop to your Epicor, you are not going to feel as much change because that is still very ERP language you are speaking. But if you try to use something else, then it's a lot of work, guys. You have no idea how much work it is. Or you can do one thing. You can fire all of those guys who were using ProShop and then find somebody else who are familiar with. Now, that could be a drastic change, because once actually everything goes inside ERP, until you are on a spreadsheet, you still have visibility about your processes. Once it actually goes to your ERP, then it's a black box, guys. Nobody knows anything. And by the way, guys, ProShop only has their own consulting. They don't share any knowledge outside. So you are completely reliant on their professional services, on their consulting services. So their training is not going to be as helpful as we all know, because nobody else is critiquing it. Their internal employees are using it. That we have seen in most ERP systems that are governed and controlled by them. It's not controlled by a consulting ecosystem. So obviously that is going to be the problem. And then we don't even know whether these customers really understand what is going to be the migration path. How are they going to move from this platform to the next? What is the succession planning? That's where I would be most worried about this platform.
Yeah, Sam, I mean, I think to that point, right, first off, being that this is probably that they're going after those first-time buyers. Those first-time buyers don't understand that they need to be considering what the next step is beyond this, because they're so focused in on, kind of to this point, right? Low barrier to entry, low cost to entry. We don't have the budget to bring in an ERP consultant on this. We don't really, have the budget allocated for a long strung out implementation. And so just that fact alone, people are not aware, the buyers in most cases, I would say, are not aware of what that next step is going to look like in terms of, should I even be considering this? Once I scale past 15 million or whatever the number happens to be, what's going to happen with that data? And to your point about the infrastructure of it, it really is something to consider for any type of ERP implementation. How easy can you access the data, not just from all the things that you've pointed out, but, coming from a manufacturing environment, being, responsible directly for operations, sometimes you would want to see something in a report a very specific way, and to be able to have access to those data tables and relationally be able to find additional data based off of a query, that becomes really, really powerful. And if all of those things are predefined for you, it could really handcuff you in terms of how you operate your business.
Yeah, exactly. And even if you're moving from just an ERP to ERP, and that itself requires a lot of translation, to be honest, even though you are going to have similar hierarchy. For example, let's say if you are moving from Epicor to SAP, you are still going to have all of your, accounts, parent accounts, maybe business accounts. And then you have the context, there you have ship tools. But even that migration could be a very, very, very hard lift. Okay, now we are talking about completely different, from the ERP industry. So that's going to be a very, very hard lift. So guys, let's pay attention to, the other screen that we have. And this is mind blowing for me. Okay, and the reason why it is mind blowing is because the way they have structured their images or the files, obviously this is very easy to use. From the machinist perspective, the people who are working on the shop floor, they used to use the folder structure. So what they have done is they have literally replicated that experience, in the folder structure. So if you actually pay attention to this, now you have the folder structure in which the way your machinists are going to be working in the physical work, in the spreadsheet work, they have literally replicated that experience. Now, here is the problem with that. Most ERP systems are going to be utilizing or storing this information either inside database or in the encrypted file system. Here, this, as you can see, this particular drive is not really encrypted. So wherever your ProShop is going to go, you are going to have the dump of these files everywhere. And by the way, guys, these are the critical designs of manufacturing. Some of these might be related to your patent data. So now these guys are going after aerospace guys. Okay, they are getting the AS certification. So Angela, I'm actually going to ask you a question. How, and obviously, this is actually validated by auditors. I know a lot of shops that have actually got the AS certification that are utilizing ProShop. I have read their testimonials that they absolutely love ProShop. Now, in my mind, even unsophisticated hacker just like me, I can probably reverse engineer this process and I can hack all of those documents. Okay, if a sophisticated hacker is going to get in the system, you have everything right there in every single device. So even if you're going to be controlling them, you have significant risk. So how come this risk is not identified so far?
I was thinking the same thing as I was going through this. It's not just ITAR that we're worried about. I mean, but there are so many different restrictions. In aerospace, we have project level restrictions that are flowed down by the customer, and if you can't segregate who has access to specific documents at a project level, that's really problematic. And I don't see that capability here.
Maybe they have that. Okay, I don't know whether they have that or not. That's a possibility, because they might be utilizing OneDrive or whatever cloud drive they are using in the background. They might be trying to utilize the permission set from there. In my experience, that integration doesn't work seamlessly. That's my experience based on the permissions. Okay, but okay, let's assume that it's working. But still, you have the physical file sitting in a folder structure on a computer in the offline version. So even if you have, let's say, internet off, those files are sitting. My OneDrive is actually sitting on my computer unless I literally free up the space.
Yeah.
So typically this is handled by the encrypted file system, where you are going to make it slightly harder to find, as opposed to keeping literally right there. Okay, steal it, guys. I'm here for you.
Yeah, this is worrisome.
Okay, awesome. So we are going to move to the next screen. So here is the estimate, and estimates are fascinating, guys. This is a very different experience overall that I have personally seen in the ERP. It's some sort of mix. I don't know whether this is e-commerce, it is ERP. I have a bunch of cards here. I don't know what cards mean. We have estimate, and estimate screen is all over the place, to be honest.
I jumped in and watched. They had a couple of YouTube videos that specifically walk through the estimation process, and I have found it a bit cumbersome, to say the least. And speaking to the carts, that is like a kitted estimate, if you will. So one customer, multiple parts for that one particular estimated order. Is what that is. And they talk about, in that same video, they do talk about the ability to utilize these different types of carts kind of throughout their software. So I found that kind of interesting, because it can be somewhat misleading, or at least a bit of a different way to describe this functionality, in my experience, compared to a traditional ERP.
Yeah, but I mean, if we go back to the point where they had claimed that they can work in the make to stock, but I'm still not seeing any sort of inventory, because inventory needs to be forecasted, and your SKUs are actually going to matter. So if you are simply going to design more from the shop perspective, I don't know how you are going to run your MRP planning. Let's say if you are make to stock, I mean, I'm at least not seeing that. Okay, so Andy, I think last time you mentioned that most job shop don't really do inventory planning because they are not big enough. But the bigger, contract manufacturers, I know they have to do it.
Absolutely.
How are they going to run it?
No, absolutely. I mean, they all do inventory control at one level or another, because there's going to be offcuts or remnants from the pieces they're working on. So they still have to track that. But the smaller ones just don't bother. The more sophisticated ones do have serious inventory control.
No, it's not just the control. Sure. I mean, let's say you don't worry about the scrap. I get it. I mean, you don't care for waste. You are rich. I get it that you don't have to worry about money. Okay. But at the same time, if you look at the inventory planning, meaning you have to plan your supply chain. And
That's right.
Angela, you have to tell me, would you trust a supplier who does not have MRP planning in place? Is it not part of the AS procedures that you are supposed to have some sort of inventory planning or the MRP? Because that's actually going to affect your delivery.
Yes, it is affecting your demand planning, your manufacturing processes. You need to be able to balance your capacity planning for the factory based on the forecast of all of your orders and how you're going to be receiving incoming raw materials and supplies. All of that has to be factored in to the entire workload of the factory, even down to scheduling your workforce.
Let me comment on that real quick. So I led a business that had a machine shop. We were using job ops in the machine shop to manage the basic flow in the machine shop, and the rest of the business was on Sage. And so we faced similar problems to what this would be. We were not able to do much capacity planning, inventory planning, or other thing off of the job ops, even though we were attempting to have it be an add-on on Sage. It just was very cumbersome. And so we would just adjust. We would make just the monthly adjustments. And and then that's when we would find out if we made any money. And if you're building to stock versus building a project, depending on those two routes, it can be even more difficult.
Yeah.
In order to have a simple add-on in your machine shop that isn't part of your ERP infrastructure. So this can run a machine shop. And to Andy's point or Sam's point, if you're not going to really mind the details on drop, on scrap, on anything but, how much raw material do I need and how much is coming out the other end and what was my payroll, on that level, you can use this and get some nice routing and some nice management of your machines, but the scalability of it is highly suspect.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, to Angela's point, I mean, the whole idea of AS is you are going to be working with the reliable vendors that have got their supply chain in control. If you don't have your supply, that's the intent of AS. So, am I hearing that these either auditors don't know what they are doing because they should probably clearly spot this, but somehow they are not able to spot? So do they not understand how to evaluate the shops, or what is going on here?
They're doing a workaround, in my opinion. I'm sorry, Angela, I'll let you go next. It's not in the system. So they've got a series of spreadsheets, a series of production looks. They're doing cycle counting. They're doing all these other activities to fill in the lack of information to actually reliably move the product to the customer. They're doing it somehow. It's just somewhere.
So that's not true at all, because their claim is they are paperless. Their ProShop claims.
I'm sure they are. I'm saying the company. When I say they, I'm saying the company, the customer.
Even customers are saying that they are paperless.
Well, okay, then they're just not printing out their Excel spreadsheet work. Because somewhere someone's having to figure out what's going on, and it doesn't appear to be functionality in this.
Okay, all right, guys.
So
right.
Sam, yeah. I was going to say, so capacity planning is like a dark art. It's very difficult to do, but the benefits of doing it, as Phil was pointing out, there's so much that you get out of it if you try to do it properly, even down to things like, planning the maintenance on your machines. All of that can be a great benefit of trying to do capacity planning, and I don't see how this is actually helping us with that. But I probably need to dig into it a little bit more.
There may be more screens, though, too, Angela.
Yes, exactly, right? Exactly, Andy.
Okay. So, guys, here is the first place where we are really seeing a build to inventory. And I don't know, see, this is not how I would expect. And this is the purchase order. So, purchase order is build to inventory. Why are you checking a flag on build to inventory? Because now you are sort of doing once you're cutting the PO, then it actually is going to go to inventory. That's not making any sense. Now I don't know what this means. So now I'm actually trying to cut the PO and then trying to register as part of the inventory because I have to register as part of the accounting. I don't get it from the accounting perspective. You guys?
They're doing something with cost because the bill to inventory's got a negative COGS dollar number on it, and the bill to customer has a positive COGS number on it. So there's some functionality that is relieving and moving inventory numbers.
That's called price, though, not cost.
Yeah.
Or either way, that's I'm not sure that is price. But I mean, I'm not sure why you would move something to inventory at a price. You'd move it at COGS.
No, you're right.
So I read that as a COGS number. But either way, the fact that one is positive and one is negative implies that there's some functionality of moving COGS through an inventory process here. Because it's the first time they've had any dollar numbers on a screen.
Yeah, and I think they can do a very specific P&L related to a job that we are going to see in next screens. Okay, so they have created sort of because as the job shop owner, you need to have P&L for each of the jobs to be able to track the profitability. But I am not able to connect the dots, how your cost is sort of related overall, with respect to product and how that is actually coming on your P&L. So let's review some more screens here.
Well, one interesting comment or field on that previous screen is that it does point out the first article. So that might be where they imply they're aerospace centric.
Yes. So obviously, that's their first target market that we have seen in case of the industry. So that's their go-to shops. They are trying to go after all these shops that are very aerospace centric. That's their go-to target market. And that's why everything is designed from their point of reference. But, when you design a very verticalized application, obviously it's not an ERP. And we have discussed this. This is a very, very, very specific vertical app that is not going to scale. Let's say today I'm actually selling to aerospace. Tomorrow I start selling to automotive or to something else. I mean, machine shops are very complex business. Typically, you are trying to diversify as much as possible. But I think they will have challenges because, if you verticalize too much, then obviously it's not going to work for the other industries. And, by the way, I mean, machine shops are not the only companies that are there in the market, and they are not claiming that they are very machine shop focused. They have claimed that make to stock, make to order, engineer to order, complex assemblies, the whole gamut of manufacturing.
And they'll turn the coffee pot on first thing in the morning too, Sam.
All right, guys. So this is the work order, by the way. Work order, this is the first time I have seen something like invoiced. This is a process break, in my opinion. I think, the way the process is supposed to work is you have sort of the sales order, then you go to the shipment, then you go to the invoice, and then, because you have to accommodate your one-to-one scenarios, in the process, because, all of these people might be different. So I don't know what is the assumption here that, just one guy is working. I really don't know. But it's not going to scale. The platform is not going to scale from the process perspective because these companies are going to need more. And then the technology infrastructure is not scalable underneath that can support the underlying data architecture that the companies are going to need. Okay, so this is beautiful. I mean, I would love to have this for my job. If you can get this right, and I think they are somehow able to get this right. But I mean, whether the right way of doing it is not entirely clear. Somehow they have got this.
Yeah, Sam, I'm just going to say that this bottom right work order P&L, it created 50 questions for me.
I
have 50 questions about where this data is coming from and how it's maintained.
Yeah, Phil, the simple way to say it is there's no reconciliation back to your financials. I mean, that's, at least if there is, we haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna make us go long if I keep going. But I mean, they're saying that they can break out labor. They're saying that they can break out overhead and SG&A on the work order level. I have questions about where that data is coming from and how it's being maintained.
Clearly, they don't have accounting background. I guess they are including that. Sure, as part of job profitability, you want to have that, but you don't call that SG&A, right? You really don't call that SG&A.
Well, I mean, the only way you're truly going to do that on the work order level, on this level of a company, on a smaller company, is to do some assumptions on what those percentages might be. But on a larger, more sophisticated system, you can get this type of stuff down to SKU level or work order level. But the work that you have to do to get a system smart enough to do that, and then the maintenance you have to do with it moving forward, is robust. And from what I've seen so far, I can't imagine these aren't just assumption percentages that they're using to say what they think they made.
Yep, I agree. All right, guys, so I'm actually going to move to the next screen. Here we have extremely busy screen. It's called cart action. I have no idea what that is, to be honest. What cart action means in the business world, I have not seen anything called cart action, even with job shops. And we work with very large job shops. I don't know if you guys have seen something similar. Cart is a very e-commerce term. We have a bunch of, orders created here, several different links. Oh boy.
Does cart action just mean inventory transaction?
I have no idea.
Yeah, Andy, from what I can tell, as I was saying in that other screen, going through their quotation process, it seems like they've set up these different carts to in my, terminology would be making kits. So something where this particular, I don't know if this would be their customer, and this particular cart is a series of orders or a kitted series of orders or a,
for that project or job.
Exactly. That part was a bit unclear, but they did specifically call out their ability to create different types of carts. And you saw it in the estimation side. You're now seeing it here. So I don't remember right off the top of my head, but I want to say they kind of called out their ability to have like 4 or 5 different types of carts available throughout their software.
Yeah, sorry guys. Do you guys have any other comments? I'll move to the next screen, but I agree with everything that Dave said. I'm still not clear if I'm able to follow, but I'll rely on Dave's expertise to be able to narrate that for me. Here we have something called inventory, and I don't know what is going on here, to be honest. I try to follow a lot. I try to read. You have some sort of work order in, you have the quantity, you have work order out. You have the allocations as well. So we're not sure how the inventory is being done, but somehow they have figured out how to do committed inventory, which is a very, very complex and difficult process in general that requires a lot of plumbing underneath to be able to figure out, how the allocations are working. But somehow these guys are able to figure out how their allocations are working. Okay, and then we are checking out. I don't know. I mean, checkout is a very e-commerce term. Again, if you have a guy who has been working, let's say either in supply chain or even in operations, to be honest, for 10 years, they would have a hard time working on this system because they are not going to be what the hell is checkout. I've never seen this before. If I'm shopping on Amazon, I would see checkout, but what is checkout in my operations system?
It's also good at the grocery store.
Exactly.
I think, recurring theme for me as I look at these screenshots is, though, Sam, and you kind of already pointed it out, but I feel like it just warrants, saying again, but there's a lot of stuff as we look at each one of these screenshots. It's very challenging to follow along and to find a seemingly, kind of flow to any of this information on really any of their screens. Very complex, a lot of things. And, it's one thing, Phil, I think you pointed out, to be able to, hot link into something and continue to kind of go down the path of finding information. That's fantastic. But even, as we just look at this screen, I'm kind of like sitting here, trying to follow along, trying to find where the logic kind of makes sense from a flow perspective and information flow perspective. So I got to imagine the on the implementation and training side that it, although they're using some like terminology, like, check out some maybe familiar terminology, I got to imagine that the people on the shop floor and in leadership, there's got to be some, struggle to really understand what all of this information is. And, and I feel pretty confident in my ability to understand, reporting and ERP and the like. So I just, again, feel like that's worth kind of reiterating.
One other thing on this screen, guys, is they're saying rack shelf position depth, which is implying a warehouse management function. And so, okay, that's great. That's ERP-ish, so that's nice. But the water's deep there.
Yep.
For them to be tying a warehouse positioning system, they're then implying that they're managing movement. And now you're into a whole level of functionality that I've yet to see on any of these screens or even what they talk about.
It seems to be a lot of the check boxes for an RFP are here.
Exactly. I mean, see, it has a bunch of flavors of e-commerce, bunch of flavors of WMS, QMS, ERP, MES, you name it, guys. It can do it all. It's an ecosystem. All right,
and
guys.
Complex assemblies, too.
Exactly. Okay, guys. So let's move to this one. I mean, this is a very MES-centric functionality. I don't know, or this is going to be more of the Asset management, I think they are trying to do here. You have a bunch of pictures and the equipment, last check date, the frequency days, the last check by, responsible for check, the check notes, the check. Okay, so this is really going to be the preventive maintenance functionality. That is typically built as part of that module. So that's what they are trying to do, but it's slightly more organized
Whip
than the
testing
other
as well.
screens, I guess. What's that?
Whip inspection as well.
I guess so.
Yeah, and this is perfectly appropriate for an add-on in a machine shop.
Yeah.
Nice functionality.
Yeah. So a couple of more things. The pricing, the ProShop is 100% paperless. Okay. So you have to read this, Phil. Obviously they don't want their customers to use any sort of spreadsheets. So somehow this is happening. We don't know how that magically happens.
So if you don't print out a spreadsheet, is it paperless?
Let's. Yep. And by the way, MEC, they also make the claim that it is systematically unique from most ERP platforms. We know that it is unique, but when you are unique, better be good.
Better
unique.
be positive unique. Yes.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. The pricing is based on the total number of users in the company, guys. Okay. They don't care how many people are using the ERP. It's for everybody in the company. If they really want everyone in the company to be able to use, they are going to charge irrespective of whether you are using it or not. Okay. And it has a lot of modules. Everything is just a very monolithic app, the way it is built. So obviously they cannot separate it out in terms of different modules. So you have to use everything or you don't get it. Okay. So that's how it is built. Most ERP systems don't do a very good job of connecting. And again, a jab at the other ERP systems, job of connecting different parts of the company. Okay, I get it. With ProShop, all the functions of the company are highly connected, especially accounting that is residing in QuickBooks, guys. And the modules are all necessary to take advantage of the full power of the system. Okay, ProShop typically replaces 3 to 8 different software packages. I think they meant spreadsheets, not the software packages, because these are the first time ERP buyers and they are really replacing these spreadsheets, not really different ERP system. But okay, I mean, sure, they might be replacing some of the really easy SASE applications, but again, that's not really the ERP system.
Every statement in ERP is relative.
Yeah, I mean, even going back to that last screen, Sam, for a second, I mean, even the fact that they're calling out and saying that they're systematically unique, the very next line talks about how every employee gets a login. I mean, in the ERP implementations I've been a part of, most every employee is going to be getting a login to your ERP system. So, for them to kind of specifically call that out and say that's what's making them systematically unique compared to most other ERP platforms, really to me speaks to who they're trying to target. And from a misinformation standpoint, I feel, because as a new buyer to ERP or somebody that's evaluating these programs, that sounds really amazing. Oh my gosh, wow, okay, everybody's going to have access to the system. Everybody's going to have the ability to see all of this data. Well, that happens with all ERP platforms, and if you were an educated buyer, you would understand that. So I felt like, again, that is really misleading, even though they're trying to target these first-time buyers. I just felt like that was something additional.
Okay, amazing, guys. So I agree, Dave. I'm actually going to move to the next screen. So this is the screen where they have very clearly identified the systems they integrate with. And in some cases, obviously, let's say if QuickBooks is actually going to pull the plug, then they are simply going to say that, that's not my deal. That's your deal. Talk to QuickBooks. So they have very clearly mentioned that. There are some crazy scenarios here when creating new part numbers in ProShop. And these are the integration issues that you are going to face when you are working with 2 different systems. When creating new part numbers in ProShop, select from a list of GL accounts via drop-down list in ProShop. So when you are creating a part number, you can select the GL accounts. Okay, but I mean, your people who are working on the shop floor, they are not going to have knowledge of the GL accounts. So typically, most ERP systems, they use some sort of translation in between that so that they don't have to understand GL accounts. That's the beauty of ERP system. The ERP systems try to decouple your accounting with your operations, but these guys are taking reverse approach that, if you care for GL accounts, I'll show you. If not, then I don't know, I'll produce numbers from somewhere. Okay, create items not previously created in the accounting software. This is where you are going to find a lot of problems overall. This is a real problem when you have 2 systems. These are real integration issues, even if you're going to claim that you are natively integrated. tax information. ProShop does not calculate taxes for you guys for some reason. I don't know why. So how am I supposed to be figuring out the taxes? And how am I paperless again? Am I calculating those taxes on some other software? I don't know. I don't get it, guys. Okay, if you guys don't have any other comments, I'm actually going to move to the next screen. So this is actually coming from the reviews of the customers. Obviously, they have very positive reviews that we have seen in every single software. We all know how reviews work. It's very easy. But we have also noted some of the reviews from the Trust Radius. For the most part, Trust Radius seems to be doing the fair, objective reviews. It seems they are at least very fine. Now, you can make up the verification as well. Who knows? But at least they are slightly fair that if you are telling 4 pros, then you have to tell 4 cons. You can't have 8 pros. So that's how they work. So we'll see. They have mentioned some of the cons. So here, a couple of things. Just have just a little more flexibility of category fields in the estimating module. So I could adopt costing for the composites industry easier. Obviously, this package is not going to have flexibility. If you want flexibility, you have to call ProShop. They are going to code for you. They are going to charge a lot of dollars in the consulting, and that's how you are going to get those features. Typically, those things will be provided by the flexibility of your ERP system, that you can customize these things by yourself if you have to. But that is something you would not get in this one, because this is not an ERP. It's an app, guys. It's really an app, and there is a massive difference between an app and an ERP. There was not a comparable product for the price. They bought it for the price. I get it. You don't have money that you can afford. I completely understand. But make sure you understand what is going to happen after you have to switch out of ProShop. That could be $1 million deal for you. DBA did not incorporate ERP with QMS and accounting. They moved from some other platform I am not familiar with. This user felt that the interface is a little too much. Needs to be a bit cleaner. Sometimes it can be hard to find what you're looking for, but that is just part of the learning curve. So obviously, the way ProShop likes to position is, hey, you guys don't know what you are doing because you guys have never used the system. So you can either coach them the real ERP or you can coach them something else. So ProShop has been very successful. Hey guys, you don't know how to do business. I know it because I have run the machine shop, and I'll teach you, how to run a machine shop. And I don't know if ProShop owner had a machine shop that was 100 million, 200 million in revenue. It's a very different deal when you grow from 5 million to 10 million to 50 million to 100 million to 200 million. It's a very, very, very different deal. And you have to create the plumbing and the foundation so that you can really build on top of that. If your plumbing is going to be weak, then obviously it's going to be extremely hard to be able to build on top of that. Okay, so I'll move to some more reviews. So here, the pricing structure, some problems. Most likely you are going to have problems in the pricing structure because you don't have that hierarchy. Vendor PO pricing structure, you are going to have problems in that. I can see that why that would happen, and that's probably because of the technology limitation and the way your information is structured. You are really going to struggle in that. Business management module to where customer vendor charts can be created. Schedule, though, is very easy, quite thorough. Obviously, they have created everything the way your beginner machinists are going to use the system. It's a very machinist perspective, but typically the ERP is going to work for everybody in the company. Sure, machinists are important. They make money for the company, but there are other people in the company as well. And those are called accounting, the procurement, the inventory, the sales, the everybody else. Guys, they don't belong to your manufacturing. Come on, guys, be serious. Okay, so the other one, while support staff will be quick to help, great. I mean, this is what we have seen in case of Global Shop. These small companies, they do a really good job in providing the support so that nobody opens their mouth. Bigger companies are not going to have bandwidth, so obviously they have to have really good support. So obviously you are going to get that from ProShop. Still don't have all the documentation needed. I pointed out that typically when you are working with a company that is going to have their own strategy as opposed to consulting, then documentation is going to be poor, which is what we are seeing in case of reviews as well. Elements of the interface could be polished. For, again, I am not into aesthetics, but it should be functional at least. I don't care, how bad. I was a big fan of Craigslist because, okay, Craigslist actually did my job. It was fast. Okay, I don't care how the product appears, but it has to be functional. It has to be sustainable over the period of time, how you are scaling your company. If you don't have that foundation, then I have a problem with the product. Okay, here can be slightly overwhelming at first. Okay, it's going to happen. I mean, that's the feeling, shared feeling in the room, unless you have a good understanding of how to write script and code. The customization pages can be confusing. So they are really asking, people to write the code, and most of the machinists that are going to write the code, obviously they have not written professionally. So you are going to get massive backlog that nobody will understand because these guys don't know how to document. These guys don't know how to document the process. And then it's going to become giant black box that nobody will be able to figure out and reverse engineer for your next implementation. So that's a massive problem there. Some of the system notifications can be a little confusing. That's okay. That's going to happen in every single ERP system. We have had some issues with the causing problems to the parts later down the line when trying to duplicate parts. Some minor issues, I guess, there. Here, coming from a network of spreadsheets, handwritten work orders, that's our understanding that majority of the customers are coming from there. They don't really understand how ERP or the formalized manufacturing processes work. They don't have formal training in that. ERP has made it so all of our job information is in one location. Components of the shelf, they have a little problem. Inventory management is negative, as you guys can clearly see. So maybe this particular operations manager had a little bit of inventory background. That's why he felt that, inventory management is not there. Material price updates, obviously you are not going to have that when you don't have inventory. How are you going to do that?
But he still gave it a 9.5 out of 10, though.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and I think he told you why, right? He said because it put all of his job stuff information in one spot. On his shop floor, it helped him.
Yeah, and the ratings could be very subjective, guys. In terms of, okay, he was fine with most of the things because he never had this before. This is the first time he has seen something that he's going to like because, it's designed from his perspective. But what about others, guys? So any other short comments, guys?
Well, I just noticed too that he thinks that this is also going to steer them towards an ISO certification. Well, maybe in that they've got some place to go to get some of their documentation, and they're not hunting through filing cabinets anymore to pass an audit. But I don't know that they're going to be ready for an ISO or an AS 9100 certification anytime soon.
Exactly, and the whole idea of AS and ISO in my mind is you need to be organized, guys, from the process perspective. The intent of these processes is, hey guys, be organized. I'm giving you a framework. Now it's up to you whether you want to follow or you want to utilize these shortcuts. Okay, so the intent is more important with these certifications than anything else. But they are simply getting the certification for the sake of it when they don't have clear inventory processes. They don't have any sort of SNOP processes. I don't know how they are going to comply the delivery dates. It's going to be really hard.
Because they need to not only have a process, it has to be documented, and they have to be following it religiously.
Yep.
And they have to prove they're following it religiously.
Exactly.
Right, but I think in fairness to an operations manager in an 11 to 50 employee machine shop or CNC shop where he knows they have to get ISO certification, this probably helped with a few things, right?
Yep.
That's right.
From his perspective, this gave him a few more pieces of the puzzle. Angela, to your point, it certainly is not going to lay out ISO processes for him.
Right.
But it probably gave him some more than he had.
Don't forget, the adjective he uses is the word steer.
Yeah. So
Steer could mean 1%, not 90%.
Got him started.
1 degree.
Yeah.
Guys, if you guys dig into their website as well a little bit further, they do offer a package that they call the Flying Start Package, which is a one-time purchase of QMS content that is embedded into ProShop's modules. So as you kind of read through there, they're basically laying out that they are going to help you with the ISO AS certification. So it's again another interesting page to take a look at. The other thing I would add, kind of more on some wrap up comments, but something we didn't talk about in this session that I think really warrants mentioning is the fact that what is the financial strength of this company, right? Yep. We know how they started. We know how they came to be. We kind of know how they're positioning themselves. But, a very critical component beyond being able to scale this system into your next one is what happens if they go out of business?
Yep.
What's going to happen to your business if they go out of business? And, not having the ability to kind of review any of that information and really fully understand, again, I feel like is doing a disservice to those first-time buyers that don't have the budget already, that are putting all their eggs into this one basket. And while there are definitely fans of this software, and I'm sure that it has helped many companies, get to where they want to be, that's a real risk, in my opinion, that we didn't cover today. We've covered in previous sessions, and I feel like it felt like it warranted mentioning today.
Okay, amazing, guys. So that's it for today. I really want to thank everybody for your time.
Thanks, guys.
Sam.
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, everybody. Good to see y'all.
I cannot thank our guests enough for coming on the show, for sharing their knowledge and journey. I always pick up learnings from our guests, and hopefully you learned something new today. If you want to learn more about Andy Pratico, head over to essoft.com. It's ESSOFT.com. If you want to learn more about Phil Kerper, head over to ringlingbusinesssolutions.com. It's ringlingbusinesssolutions.com. If you want to learn more about Angela Thurman, head over to thurmanco.com. It's THURMANCO.com. If you want to learn more about Dave Chrysler, head over to thechrysler.club. It's THECRYSLER.CLUB. Links and more information will also be available in the show notes. If anything in this podcast resonated with you and your business, you might want to check other related episodes, including the interview with Paul Van Meter, who discusses how machine shops can use their business processes as a sales tool in their sales and marketing collateral. Also, the interview with Anisa Mutana, who shares her journey of transforming her shop after losing all of her key customers because of the consolidation in her customers' industries. Also, don't forget to subscribe and spread the word among folks with similar backgrounds. If you have any questions or comments about the show, please review and rate us on your favorite podcasting platform or DM me on any social channels. I'll try my best to respond personally and make sure you get help. Thank you, and I hope to catch you on the next episode of the WBS Podcast.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the WBS Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. For more information on growth strategies for SMBs using ERP and digital transformation, check out our community at WBS.rocks. We'll see you next time.